Hey guys, so this video is going to be not quite as typical as what I typically am putting on the channel. Usually you're used to seeing jet skis, four-wheelers, all that kind of stuff. But a couple days ago, my furnace in my house went out and got to looking at it. Ended up being my heat exchanger tubes are blown out. So I got that temporarily patched. I know a lot of people are probably going to give me a ton of crap for that, but did what I had to do to get heat in the house. Got my carbon monoxide detectors all set up and everything. Like nothing's going wrong there. Anyway, so I got a new furnace and it's a little bit different dimension wise than my current one. So basically what I'm gonna have to do is build a new plenum box for the top of it to go into all my ducting. So today's video is going to be kind of about that because I figured it could probably help some people out. So to start with, you're just going to have some basic tools, a couple different sets of tin snips. Got some angled ones here, some straight ones. Also kind of a hand bender, just to kind of bend edges and stuff, whatnot. I wish I had a bigger one of these, but I don't. It's just kind of a flat bar folding tool. You stick your pieces of sheet metal in here. On this side, you can bend it up to an inch to build or bend edges, and then this side, you get 1/8 of an inch. And then aside from that, you got a yardstick just to kind of make some measurements. For materials, you got some S-cleat or S-lock, whatever you want to call it, and then some sheets of sheet metal, and then also some foil tape just to kind of, when we're all done, seal up the edges and seams and everything, make it look nice, make it as efficient as possible, and then also some self-tapping screws just to kind of tie everything all up together and make it nice and secure. So that's basically what you're going to start out with. Pretty basic hand tools. You can do this at home. I'm by no means an HVAC guy or electrician, plumber, whatever you want to call it. So throughout this entire process, just keep in mind that I'm not a professional at all. Just trying to help some people out who might not want to hire someone to do it. And if you got some basic skills, you can probably pretty easily do this yourself. But if you're not comfortable with it, make sure and just go ahead and hire a professional, because better to be safe than sorry. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first, you're going to want to get your dimensions together for how big your box is going to be. Mine is going to be 33.5 inches tall, just to mate up with the existing ducting that I've got. And then it's going to be 20 by 20, which is the dimensions of the new opening for the output air on my new furnace. So one thing to remember, since I'm doing the 20 inches wide, like I said, when you're doing this ducting, you're also going to be bending over tabs to make it connect with the other pieces, and it's actually 1 inch is what that S-cleat uses. So you're going to want to bend an additional 1 inch on the side. So in total, the piece I'm going to cut out is going to be 22 inches and not 20 inches. So go ahead and grab your ruler, or you can use a tape measure. It's just going to be way more of a pain if you go that way. So go ahead and mark off 33.5 inches here. And it's nice because this piece of sheeting is exactly 36 inches, so it's the perfect length for the ruler. Go ahead and make a line right across there. And then you're going to go to 22 inches. And go ahead and make your second line. Oops. So then you've got your little piece that you're going to cut out. And then once you've got that cut out, you're going to cut little notches 1 inch on each corner, so that way you can go ahead and bend over the edges to how you need it to use your S-cleat, S-lock, whatever you want to call it, and get it to connect with the other pieces. So let's go and get this cut out. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is put a cross break in this piece of sheet metal. Just because it's so long, you want it, basically you're putting an X across the back of it, and that's to just kind of give you some more stability and keep it from popping when your furnace kicks on from the pressures or whatever. I would use my yardstick, but it's not quite long enough. I've seen some people, obviously most people are going to have a machine to put a break in the back. But I do not, so I've seen some people say that you can get away with a screwdriver and a piece of your S-lock. And you're just going to press down pretty good. Go across it once. And then go across it twice. Then you're going to do the same thing diagonally across the other side. And this is just going to help kind of stiffen up this piece of sheet metal. Cross break put in, that actually turned out really nice. And that piece is basically ready to go. All we got to do is fold up the edges and we'll be done. So we'll go ahead and grab the bender here. Like I said, I wish it was longer, but story of my life. Not half bad. Could definitely be better, but could also be a lot worse. Starting in the center or starting on the edges is going to help me out more with it being so sharp. But you will see. Not perfectly straight, but I think we'll be able to get it to line up. First piece is all done. Now we just got to repeat that on one other side, and then the other two pieces that are going to go in between are basically just going to be straight. We will go ahead and do the cross break on them, but then they're just going to mate up in here using the S-lock. Alright, so my plenum box is basically all built now. All the pieces are cut out. I've got it all connected together with the S-lock. The cross brakes are all scored into each piece, and something to note with the cross brakes, so it'll create kind of a bulge you can kind of see there. You want that bulge facing outward on your box. So what that's basically going to do is when your furnace fires up each time and it starts pressuring up all your air, it's going to, these pieces are already going to be pushed out. If they were to be the other way, as the furnace powered or pressured up, it would basically pop out the sides of this plenum box, and then you'd be hearing like just a loud tin can type effect every single time your furnace kicks off or on. So you want to make sure that those are pointed outward. And also the other thing those cross brakes does is just really reinforces the structure and kind of makes these a little more rigid than if it was just a flat piece of tin. So I will still have to make the lid for my plenum box, But I'm not gonna make that just yet because I wanna get it all put up on the furnace and kind of get it seeing where it's gonna need to be. Then I'll take my final measurements for the lid where it's going to connect with the rest of my ducting up a little bit higher. And yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of wait on that so I don't end up building something that's not gonna work. So as far as this goes, the only things I have left to do really, I'm gonna run some self-tappers on this S-lock just to kind of really tighten everything up. And then I'll be doing foil tape on all the seams just to make it nice and basically airtight. And it'll just kind of stiffen everything up a little bit more and make it a little more rigid. So we're all done with that, and now we're gonna move on to the furnace. I gotta cut a hole in the side of the furnace for my inlet air coming in, and then basically it's just gonna be kind of fitting up the rest of the ducting. We'll do a little bit of wiring and we'll be about done. So it's day 2, got kind of busy yesterday, caught up with some other stuff had to take care of, so didn't get this all finished, but I've got everything moved into the house now, the garage outside here, and everything's pretty much mocked up, ready to go. Got my plenum box just kind of sitting on there. Got my stovepipe kind of positioned. It's about the height it's going to need to be. I may have to trim a little bit off of there, but for the most part, I think we should be good. Got all my wiring exposed, ready to go. The GoPro died, so I wasn't able to get this on here. So basically, these furnaces, they come with, you can do it in upflow or downflow. And mine, of course, is an upflow, but typically your return air would come up from the bottom here. That's how they make these from the factory. And with my setup, that doesn't work. I have to have it come in from the side. So they don't give you all the possible cutouts for these things from the factory. So talking with my buddy that's an HVAC guy, you have to basically cut out how you need it to be. So I had to cut out the side there. I just used tin snips. You do not want to use a Sawzall or a cutoff wheel from what he was telling me, just because you really run a risk of getting shavings in your motor, which you do not want. So best to use snips. That's what I used, and it went pretty smoothly. Just marked it all off and everything, used the Sharpie and a straight edge, got it all good to go. So that's all good. I've already measured where my existing natural gas pipe is going to come in. So got that knocked out there. It's a little bigger hole than I would like, but that's the only one that was really available and going to work for my use. So then other than that, my fan is going to connect right up in here. And then I've just got a 2-wire thermostat, so that'll go to my little block there on the control board. So we should be mostly about getting there. I wanted to just get this all pretty much mocked up so that way it's minimal time between when I'm pulling out the old furnace and putting in a new one. So I'm hoping from the time I shut off the power, shut off the gas, start pulling wiring and everything, taking apart ducting and getting that old furnace out of there, hopefully we can have that out, this new one in, all wired up in less than an hour, and I won't lose too much heat, which, I mean, we're getting a new heater in, so it's not that huge of a deal anyway, but I'd like to not drop the house to too cold of a temperature. So yeah, guys, here's my old furnace. You can see kind of how it's sitting. So like I was saying, my return air supply comes in down here. So I'll basically have to rip off all the foil tape back in there, get that thing disconnected. We'll shut off my gas here. My breaker is outside in the garage area, so I'll get that shut off. And then I'll basically pull off the cover here, start pulling out my wiring, get this ducting loose. We're gonna leave this up, and then my new plenum box is gonna connect up in here. And then we'll just have to get the stovepipe all fitted up. All right, so the old furnace is out. It was not nearly as easy as I probably made it sound. Fighting with all this old duct work and getting it untaped and unscrewed was definitely a pain, but got the gas unhooked, got my electrical there, and then also my thermostat. Everything's pretty much all cleaned up and ready to reinstall. I went ahead and now's a good time to check. Go ahead and check your vents and everything. Make sure that, or your ducting, make sure that there's no leaks or anything. I ended up putting another piece of tape up there. I could see a light through there, so I went ahead and taped that up. You just want to make everything as airtight as you possibly can. So now that it is out, I'm going to go ahead and just clean up the floor a little bit, and then I'll be bringing the new one in and start getting all of the ductwork kind of just made it up and make sure it's all how it needs to be. Alright, so after a lot of messing around with the ducting, finally got it all together, taped all the seams, got screws in there, feels pretty solid. Definitely stiffened it up a lot. Got it all taped around the seams here at the top of the furnace. I've got my exhaust stack all in, screwed in, all ready to go. Now behind here I've got my power all hooked up along with my ground. And then down on, let me grab my flashlight here so you can see a little better. On this little terminal block here, I only have a 2-wire thermostat. Mine's battery powered and I've only got heat. So I've got my red wire on the R terminal and then my white on the W. So aside from that, I got my gas hose, the fitting there. I don't know if you're supposed to tape them on with these or not. Working in the oil field and everything, they always tell us, I mean, we're required to wrap all of our gas stuff with tape. So went ahead and wrapped that, tightened down the connector there, and coming over to this one, did the same thing, all nice and tight. This hose is a little longer and kind of overkill. That's all the Home Depot had though, and the one that was in my old furnace just wasn't long enough. So basically everything's all together, and I'm just going to throw on my front panel, get the gas fired on, and get the power turned on, and we'll see how it goes. Alright guys, this thing is all hooked up. It's firing up for the first time here. It appears to be operating correctly. The main blower motor down below is working. Got the inducer blower for shoving out the exhaust, that's also working. And now the flames finally just kicked on. Working normally. Now we're blowing heat. Everything's still working. So we'll make sure that everything gets heated back up. I'm going to go ahead and throw my filter in. And yeah, we'll make sure, just kind of monitor it, make sure everything's working right. Hopefully we're good to go. So a couple last things to point out, guys. My furnace, since I'm at sea level already, it's kind of standard setup from between 0 to 2,000 feet above sea level. So mine's already pretty much good to go. I'm probably still going to get a HVAC tech to come out and just see if it needs tuned or anything, because that'll be probably the smartest thing to do. But as far as the rest of this, I mean, it took me about 2 days to get it all installed, but if I were to have just concentrated and focused just on this, I probably could have got it knocked out in probably less than half a day and saved myself a ton of money. I mean, you're probably looking at a couple $1,000s at least to have an HVAC tech come out and install this type of thing. So save me a little money, but like I said earlier, if you're not comfortable with this type of thing, definitely get somebody that's trained and is professional to do it for you. And like I said, after the fact that you do have it in there, I would still recommend getting one to come out and kind of check things over and make sure it's all tuned properly and everything, just so the unit's running as efficient as it possibly can be. But yep, that's about all I got for this video, guys. Hopefully the next one will be a little more exciting. So hopefully somebody got something out of this, and we'll catch you guys later.